Hey everybody, it's low-carb and keto nutritionist Amy Berger from 2itnutrition.com bringing you keto without the crazy. If you happen to be new to my channel, this is the third part in what is but was not intended to be a three-part little series on celebrating Dr. Robert Atkins and the sort of legacy that he left us with low carb and ketogenic diets and the huge debt of gratitude that we owe him and his contemporaries and other doctors and researchers that tried to tell the world, hey everybody, the reason everybody's so sick and so heavy isn't the saturated fat and it's not the cholesterol and it's not the red meat, it's the sugar and it's the excess carbs too, not just sugar. I did not intend this to be three parts, but if this is the first one you're watching, please do go back and watch parts 1 and 2. There will be links to both of those below. I had to do one last little short video because there are a couple of things that I forgot last time that I think are important, or they're important to me. They might not be important to you, but since I am putting this out in public now, it's important to me to convey this information. So, why is it so important that I give credit to people like Dr. Atkins and like the other researchers and doctors I mentioned in the follow-up video, part 2, you know, John Yudkin and Dr. Joseph Kraft and Mike and Mary Dan Eads and even Gary Taubes for bringing all of, you know, the historical research on this to our attention and to the public. The reason this is so important to me is obviously I've had my own personal journey. I mean, you can learn about that in some of the earliest videos I did talking about how I got into low carb myself. But it's as a professional nutritionist, and I wasn't always a nutritionist. I'm what they call a career changer. I was in and out of a lot of other jobs that I wasn't fulfilled by, and I didn't really care about all that much until I became a nutritionist. And I met Eric Westman in like March 2018, just, you know, not that long ago. I had been reading his research for probably 10 years. I've been reading his papers for a long time, and I had met him like once or twice briefly, just a handshake and move on, never actually like said a sentence to each other. But in March 2018, we had the opportunity to get to know each other a little more. We had dinner at an event with, like, you know, a whole bunch of other people at the table, but I happened to be sitting across from him. And I could not pass up the opportunity to say something to him. And this is what I said to him. I said, Dr. Westman, I just want to take this opportunity publicly to thank you for all the work that you've done and that you're still doing. Because it's easy for me as a nutritionist in 2018 and now 2019, it's easy for me to tell people, oh, it's okay to eat butter. Oh, yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with bacon. There's nothing wrong with saturated fat. Egg yolks are fine. It's easy for me to say that in 2018 and 2019. It was not easy when Dr. Westman was doing his research in 1998, 1999. You know, it wasn't easy in 2002. It wasn't easy when Dr. Atkins died in 2003. And it sure as heck wasn't easy for Dr. Atkins in 1972 when he wrote his book. And it probably wasn't easy for John Yudkin in the 60s when he was doing his research. And it wasn't easy for Dr. you know, Mike and Dr. Mary Dan Eads in the early to mid 90s when they were publishing also. And obviously Dr. Finney, you know, in the 80s. I mean, anybody who was going against the mainstream dogma, the mainstream advice, really was putting their necks on the line. And Dr. Atkins is a great example of someone who took a huge, you know, public beating for that. Really, his reputation was thrown in the trash. And that's why it's so important to me to rehabilitate and to like make everybody aware that he's our hero. He's one of many of our heroes, but he's one of our main heroes in the whole contemporary low carb and ketogenic movement. But you know, for people like Dr. Atkins and in the early years, I mean, Dr. Atkins and the Eads, and in the early years of his research, people like Dr. Westman and Finney and Volek and all of them, for them to talk about something that was so polar opposite to what was coming out of the American Heart Association, the American Diabetes Association, the American Dietetics Association, which is now called the AND, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. It's the organization that credentials RDs, registered dietitians, for doctors and researchers to be telling people to do something so radically different from what almost everybody else was saying. And not just like, you know, your neighbor Biff down the street, but like the American Heart Association. You would think they're going to give you reliable advice about cardiovascular health. The American Diabetes Association. You would think they would know something about controlling blood sugar. So how is it that this crazy Dr. Atkins is telling me that I should eat egg yolks and I should eat butter and bacon, but I shouldn't have my whole grain cereal with skim milk? Like, that's the opposite of what I should have. I don't think that we as a group today appreciate what a risk it was for those doctors and researchers to do that. But they couldn't deny what they were seeing with their own eyes. Like I mentioned in the first video, the hour-long video about Dr. Atkins, when Dr. Westman said, hey, we need to do research on this, we need to publish trials, Dr. Atkins was like, I don't need to publish clinical trials. I've got tens of thousands of patient files right here. This is all the data I need. I see it every day with my own two eyes. I see people losing 50 pounds, 150 pounds. I see people getting off their diabetes meds. I see the blood pressure coming down. I see the triglycerides coming down. I see the fatigue going away. I see the anxiety going away. He could not deny, and that's how Dr. Westman got started. He had two patients. I mentioned this, I think, in the first video. He couldn't deny, hey, you're doing this, like before he knew about the research and everything. He was like, the Atkins diet, like, that's really bad for you. Your cholesterol's going to go up. You're going to get a heart attack. I'm really worried about you. You know, even then, like, until he learned differently, it was like very scary. And so you can imagine what, like I said, what a risk personally and professionally. Like I said, personally, remember I said in the first video, Dr. Atkins told his nurse Jackie, if you're on your way to work and you're walking here from the subway station and you see cop cars, turn the other way and call our lawyers. I mean, these people put really their professional reputations on the line and their personal lives. I mean, when you think of what Dr. Atkins was doing and saying, like somebody from the American College of Cardiology or the American Heart Association could have easily taken him out, you know, but he couldn't unsee what he was seeing every day. And Tro Kalayjian can't unsee, and Sean Baker can't unsee, and Ted Naiman can't unsee, and Jeff Gerber can't unsee. And all of these, you know, Andy Fung can't unsee. All of these low-carb and keto-friendly doctors cannot unknow what they know now. And even when I went to nutrition school, I have a master's in human nutrition, and I graduated when I was, I don't even remember, like early 30s maybe, or early 30s. Because I was a career changer. I went back later in life. I was already following a low-carb diet for several years before I went for formal nutrition education. So when I learned the anatomy and the biochemistry and the physiology, I learned it already having read the Atkins book, already having read Protein Power, already having read Good Calories, Bad Calories. I even read that before I went to graduate school for nutrition. And so I was able to learn the science with that context in mind. And I would say, oh, that's how beta oxidation works. No wonder insulin inhibits it. Or, oh, that's how this pathway works. No wonder low carb does the things it does. Or no wonder glucose has the effect it does. And so for me, it was just easier. But I would say, it's almost stunning to me that anyone who goes through medical school, you know, anyone that goes to medical school, they take anatomy and physiology. They cut open cadavers. They can see the liver. They can see the kidneys. You know, they see all this stuff. They learn the biochem. They learn everything. They learn the pathways. And I don't understand how you can learn those metabolic pathways and the hormones and the enzymes and not think that something is amiss with the current dietary recommendations. I'm not saying that looking at anatomy and physiology would automatically say, oh, everybody should do a ketogenic diet, because I don't think everybody should do a ketogenic diet. If you've watched any of my past videos, you know that about me. Not everyone needs strict keto. But I don't know how you can come away with thinking that there's anything dangerous about saturated fat, or there's anything dangerous about dietary cholesterol, or that how could you not understand that insulin inhibits lipolysis, the breakdown of fat? That's literally in every single biochemistry textbook that exists that mentions insulin. Insulin inhibits lipolysis. There it is in plain English, or in plain whatever language you're watching this, whatever country you're in. Your biochemistry textbooks probably say the same thing. So it's really fascinating and puzzling at the same time to me how these medical students can learn the science, learn all the stuff of the human body, blah, 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 and then get into clinical practice. And it's like, I'm going to ignore all that. I'm going to totally forget all that. And I'm just going to do what my governing body, governing organization says. I don't know, but that's why we owe such a debt of gratitude to Atkins and the Eadeses and all the, Finney and Yudkin and Kraft and now, and Jerry Reven. I always forget to mention Gerald Reven. He was, I think he was an MD. He might have also been a PhD. I think he was an MD who, he coined the term Syndrome X, which is now called metabolic syndrome or insulin resistance syndrome. He's the one that really put the pieces together, or at least the one that I know that was publishing on it in the 1980s, mid-1980s, of saying, hey, high blood pressure and high glucose and obesity and, high triglycerides and even some of like female infertility, and I think he was talking about some of the men's health problems even back then. Hey, all of these things, high insulin, we're finding high insulin in all of these people. Maybe this is a syndrome caused by high insulin, although at the beginning he didn't know it was insulin. It was some unknown X factor variable, which is why they called it Syndrome X. And now it's metabolic syndrome. I think it should be called hyperinsulinemia syndrome or chronic hyperinsulinemia syndrome, because anyway, that's another discussion for another time. But so anyway, I always forget about Jerry Reven. We owe Dr. Reven a huge debt of gratitude as well. And it's just so different for me to be one of many voices, one of many nutritionists, many dietitians, many doctors, many PhDs, totally on board with low carb and keto or paleo or any kind of dietary approach that either limits carbohydrates or understands that the control of insulin is really paramount. And I just want to really bring it to our attention the personal and professional risks that those early people took in going so against what everybody else was saying. That takes courage. It takes courage. It takes conviction. But it takes certainty. It takes certainty to say, no, this is how the heart works. This is how the blood vessels work. Fat doesn't do anything to them, but sugar bangs the hell out of them. Insulin bangs the hell out of them. Insulin really trashes those blood vessels. It ain't the cholesterol. It ain't the saturated fat. And it takes the certainty of somebody like Robert Atkins, who sat across the office, across the desk at his clinic with how many thousands upon thousands of patients. How could you not be certain when you see it every day you're at work with your own eyes? That's why we know all these MDs see it. And so many of them experienced it themselves. Ted Naiman lost weight and got healthy on keto himself. Tro Kalayjian has lost like 100, maybe 150 something. Like, he's lost a ton of weight. Andy Fung was, I think, he was always skinny, but he was like pre-diabetic. We've got all these doctors who, again, they can't unsee and unknow what they see and what they now know. So that's it. I'm done talking about Atkins and all these other pioneers. I will probably mention them all in future videos, but I'm done dedicating the gratitude, the public recognition of the incredible work that these people have done. So that's it for now. Again, my website, 2itnutrition.com, links below to any critical things that I mentioned, links to Dr. Westman's Keto Retreat in Beaufort, North Carolina, beautiful, beautiful coastal town. Other places you can meet me if you want to book a consultation, that is all down in the links. See you next time. If you like my videos, if you like the message of keto without the crazy that Atkins started, low carb without the crazy, do subscribe to my channel so you can watch future videos, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.